Well, a beautiful sunny day in that sense here in Vreeland. I will ring the bell 3 times.
Good morning, also from sunny Vreeland. Wishing you a wonderful, warm, cold day. I was just in the garden and it struck me how green everything is, so fresh, so new. So, yes, to newness and to courage.
Good morning, this is Rosa checking in from Ygrand in France, Brittany. The words that come to mind this morning are self-trust, grounding, and possibility.
This is Hasina calling in from Newcastle, South Africa. And I'll also go for 3 words: openness, possibility, and I don't even have another word for the third one, just fascination.
Good morning, everybody. My 3 words are TLC. I learned it as a flight attendant in my education there. TLC stands tender, loving care. Tender, loving care. As a customer viewpoint, as a flight attendant, but I take it outside of as being a flight attendant. In a broader space, it's tender, loving care. That's what I feel.
Good.
TLC.
I used the angel cards for sisterhood, depth, and inspiration.
Good morning, this is Amelie from Amsterdam. Lots of sunshine. I was just after last night for at least 2 hours dancing. So I feel totally very content with everything and all of life.
Yeah, it was felt very deep and just really enjoyed the session last night, and just reaffirming as well from my particular question. I was sort of like, yeah, I know. Of course I know. I can trust. Like, it's always over and again. Yes, I can trust that when I know things at that level. Yeah. So yeah, so I just really, yeah, I mean, like one part of my mind was like, it's just one person accessing for everyone, but it's like, well, it's okay because it's so good and deep, and you can feel the energy. I think we can all feel the energy, and it was really building in a collective field, even though it was sort of Athena accessing for us. It didn't feel like that was the problem actually. So my kids were sleeping at other people's houses last night, and my husband's gone away, so I have sort of blissful peace in the homestead.
Just want to bring in some quick thing. I was just sitting in the garden and I started painting my daily, well, what wants to come to me. And what came to me, of course, were the Akashic records of yesterday. And then I painted you, Hasina. And I said, oh, Hasina, I should go. And then indeed it was 10:30 exactly. Took a little time too. But so far the alignment. So it also works.
That's cool.
Sina, do you want to share a bit more about last night and how you're with it now? I'm sorry I couldn't join, but
No, all good. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I always love going into the Akashic records, whether it's for me or for like a client who's, you know, an individual or the collective. And I always have a kind of a process, and it's not really a ceremony of sorts. It's just I know that I keep it, I presence that I'm going to be going in. So it feels like, you know, I'm honoring that, being able to do that. And then, so when it came to yesterday and actually opening the records, I was enjoying it. And I honestly didn't expect, like, the divine guidance was so strong. I didn't expect that kind of powerful feeling. So it was in the context of what Kara and I think Anya, and I hope I'm not leaving anyone out, but whoever created that, of safe spaces in darkness, and also what was it? You know, the backdrop of the context of World War II ending yesterday at 23:01. And it was just a presencing of that, but it was such powerful guidance about darkness and light, and just how to, I don't remember specifics necessarily, and Kara, I'm hoping we have a transcript, but I don't know. No, okay. I have to rely on Tom's notes, but yeah, someone had asked about, and this struck me, about how when there are people who we term as evil and they're doing things in the world, how to be in the light, something like that. I can't quite remember. And the guidance that came through was that there was like when our perceptions is a reflection of our alignment, and we're possibly never in 100% alignment and in the light. We may be 99% at the most, and then, you know, depending on our vibration. So when we're looking at things that are done in the world, if we were in total alignment, we are only seeing the light. Like, there's such a perspective shift. And then as I was, you know, just being the conduit and the message was coming out, I felt myself, like my human self, feeling guilty because, I mean, how do you say that when people have suffered so much? And then it was like this energy and the light filled me, and it was as if we all have that reflection, like we could totally shift the world and it wouldn't even take time, like a matter of seconds, minutes, whatever, if collectively we could all just be in that light, like even 99%, it would just shift everything. There would be peace on earth. But that feeling was so strong that I was holding my hands like this, and the energy was so palpable. And I remember looking, and I saw Tom was also, you know, doing the same thing with his hands, and he was also feeling that energy. But I remember when I was holding the energy, I just felt, I've never felt anything this strong. It was really powerful for me. So that was my experience of it. And I'm just so, to all of you who've created the opportunity in the room, I'm just so in gratitude because I discovered that this is I always knew there was something bigger than just doing a reading, but the format in which it was done yesterday is the way I would like to continue that. So Cara, Annalise, Amelie, everyone who created that, thank you. And we finished at 23:02. It was so amazing. With an ending that, Cara, you put out so perfectly, you know, how we all ended it.
And how was that? How did you end it?
Cara, do you want to share that part?
It invited us each to say a proclamation, sort of inspired by the women Divine Mother's Light ceremony about the like peace is here now, or the war is over now. What came to me is because it was that war being over thing, and the war is over, and then others made it even sort of deeper in breath. There is no war, like the war is over, there is no war, like and put their own spin on it.
Yeah. And what had happened was that last year I did 30 days of Akashic Records readings. Actually, it was Ramadan, and I'm not into religion, but I decided to do something spiritual, and I went into the records every day for 30 days and channeled these abundance messages. And so I never knew what it was going to be, when it was going to be used. And I had felt called to use it yesterday. So as we went into the healing in abundance, I said to everyone, pick a number, and from 1 to 31, and everyone picked a number, and what they picked was what I read from that abundance. And I just felt that was so powerful. I want to do more of that as well.
And it was clearly amplified by the light of our group, which is building now for a long time, and the sisterhood.
What was also very powerful for, well, me, and I presume Micro as well. I was walking with the dog in the little lanes here, and then I saw the beauty of the nature, and I was really had this sense of oneness with this beautiful grasses and these birds singing out loud, and then I suddenly thought, this is what Hasina meant when we are aligned. There is no unconsciousness. There is no. It's not that you notice that there is our unconscious is unconscious life, maybe I should say. And That really struck me. So I took that from yesterday as well. Thank you so much for that.
Anne-Marie, do you want to share from your experience? I know you've shared it in the THC meeting, but
Well, I was just what was resonating what you were just saying, Annalise, was when I was on the island, San Miguel, the big island in the Azores, and walking. That's a volcanic island. So there's it's the smell of swavel, of sulfur all the time. I was realizing that's always there because it never stops. There's always out of the ground, out of the walls. There is this you can feel the breath of the earth. It's coming. It's there. It's all the time there. And also when you're walking in the park and the grass, and I like to walk on my bare feet, so I was walking on my bare feet, and then some parts suddenly get hot. So this feeling of life and living and consciousness in everything, Annalise, that was the little, what you reminded me of that moment that I was, I mean, I have that sense, but this was so clear and it made it so differently visible and available and experiential. And then, you know, out of the walls, I mean, they had guided, of course, the water that comes out so that there are taps where you can take the water, and some of the water is fizzy and other water tastes like this. And it was so amazing, actually. And I don't know if that's like, if Iceland is like that as well, but for me, it was the first time to be in a place where this was everywhere where you walked, and parts of the river, and then there was a little pool would be hot and then the other part would be cold, and so playing with these senses like that, that's how we actually started. So taking rest, landing there, letting go of everything what we came back from, and just really connecting in that way, and having all our senses awakened was a very beautiful way of starting. And then also with a beautiful botanical garden, because the Azores, the islands are on a place that, you know, especially from Portugal out into the world, but also the British and many of the sailing nations took anchor in the Azores, and the British specifically had the practice of taking along plants and then planting them on these islands. So you have, and then just moving on again. So nature just takes over and arranges it for itself. But this was a set up botanical place, very beautiful. Also so alive with the birds and with it's not smoke. What is it? How do you call that? Steam? Steam
yes.
coming out. And one pool like rusty water, very warm, lovely to swim in, but it looked dreadful. It looked absolutely dreadful, but it was great swimming in it. And then between the trees and in the park, these little pools where you could also sit and sit. So that gave a different kind of connection to Mother Earth, let's say. And I was doing these meditations 2 to 3 times a day, that of the 17 chakras. I will put it in the chat, in the WhatsApp. which is very beautiful, and which is also very much focused on going deeper into the earth and underline the cosmic context, but also for me, it was very much about going deeper into the earth. And I'm still doing that every day, getting some clarity how on these different layers, visualizing it in the earth, how on these different layers there are different access to records, I presume, and I'll see now. And I don't know whether you're also always seeing the Akashic records where you're visualizing or where you feel it's coming from, if there is any location, because there might not be any location whatsoever. But for me, this depth and deepness in the earth, with these earth chakras is a very interesting grounding practice, which I feel is helping me to be more present, let's say. And it confirms that I am to be here, really here on earth. And the experience with the dolphins and the whales and the birds and the turtles, the sea turtles, which are absolutely amazing. That then suddenly just pop up next to your little boat, was yeah, very heart opening, even more heart opening and joyful. And on a deeper layer, the permission for joyfulness is so profound with dolphins, I feel, for me anyway. And I think, you could see that with other people as well, the response. And with the whales, the breath is so present. They're breathing, because when they come up and when you see them, they are breathing, and it is by the out breath and the spray that they give that you can also recognize what kind of whales they are, because one goes to the left and the other goes like that. I mean, they can be identified by the way they do their out breath, and so that and you could also hear that because we were not that far away. So that the breath also, with everything and the excitement and the feeling, there's also that. So that was for me also another part of, this life breath, and the realization that I know that we know that, and I also am a diver, so I also know that because I dive. But the depth that these whales go to is so much more deeper, and I could sense that when I was in the sea between the dolphins myself. It's a different type of water, the Atlantic Ocean, than compared to the Red Sea, or in the middle also say there is another type of sensing that and seeing that. It's also, of course, that that it's 1 to 3 kilometers deep, but there was also something about the quality of the water that is different, and the way that you can look down, and that knowing that there is so much life down there, and that the dolphins and the whales are actually the ones that bring it up and then go down again. They go there and they go down, and they're in those 3 kilometers below, feeding and doing everything, and then they come back up again, and they bring part of what they ate, of course, then comes out on the above, and so they are really circulating like that, and then they're also traveling. So that was another sense, this sense of purposefully journeying around the world that these animals do, the birds as well. I mean, butterflies and all it's absolutely amazing. They are just traveling the globe, and they know and they sense, and so that's kind of like the mystery become more tangible the beauty, the wonder. And that island, speaking about the turning of the light, and then I'll pause. The islands, well, there were people living there, and then it got, of course, with the Marines, etc., especially the Americans brought there the whale industry. So it's very much focused, actually, although it's Portuguese, the Americans played a huge role in really bringing there also the money system, because before that it didn't exist. It was just bartering and taking care of each other and each playing their roles. And also you can see that in the islands. The islands also each play their own role in that ecosystem. But the whale industry was specifically there, brought and led also by the Americans. And further professionalizing the way that they were living with the whales, and also sometimes, using the whales for food and for everything, actually. But of course, the whale industry was more focused on one part, the oil in that whole very complex system. And so there are whale spotters, people on the islands that were spotting and looking at and trained to identify in the sea where whales were showing up. And then they would use smoke signals to give directions, and then the people would go out in their little rowing boats to go and capture the whales. And these spotters are now spotting for the tourist industry. So in 1984, the whale industry was forbidden, 1984. And then, so it stopped there, and the factories all closed, and there was money given for support for the people, but it didn't arrive at the people. So there was a lot of armoede, poverty, problems, uprising, whatever. They went through a very difficult time. And then they started to realize that there could be developed a tourist industry around that. So now the tourist industry, the whales and the dolphins are the primary source of the tourism. And the whale spotters are still spotting the whales, but now, in order for the boats and the people to go out to see where they are, to be there in presence. And it was amazing how much care and love I felt at the local people for the whales when we went out. So they've really made with each other clear agreements. How far away, how long do we stay? Do we give them peace and time for themselves? What can we do? What can we not do? Do we take turns? Really amazing, actually, really amazing to feel that. And we went to speak with one of these whale spotters that was 5th or 6th generation whale spotter. And his grandfather had said, was the last one in his family line that had been spotting the whales for the kill. And his grandfather had said that he was so glad that his grandson would never experience that. And he was a whale spotter now for the tourist industry and for research, because they do a lot of research as well. They recognize the flukes, the tails. That's how you can identify which whale it is. So they're registering it, they're looking at the behaviors and all kinds of other things. So they transformed it from the kill into loving care and sharing the beauty. Which I also thought was hopeful. I was there with love too, and that's serving that kind of transformation, actually. Thank you.
Well, Anne-Marie, you posted already the 17 chakras, and I did start to experience from there. In fact, there were 2 or 3 moments I got a big shift So it's very strong. It's a very strong work to do, especially in this moment of time. I thank you for that.
Natasha gave it, and we use it
Okay.
with good intention, which
Thank
is
you, Natasha.
yes, yes. Yeah. If I was 20 years younger, I would become a free diver.
A what?
A free diver.
Oh,
Practice to really stay underwater. I met a free diver once in Delphi in Greece when I was there with the Dolphin Embassy. He could stay underwater 14 minutes. I mean,
you can just live 20 years longer and you can practice to be a free diver now.
We all got new bodies with the new birth, so you might try.
yeah. Well, we do have 24 meters here. It's a start. Yeah. I also did notice that I used to water ski, and we were in these small little rubber boats. So I love that. I love that. I really love that. But I could also sense this, when they got this message, oh, over there on the South Island or whatever, and then we went, oh, turn the boat, and we would go there. This thrill. So at the beginning, I had this. I had to work with myself with that because I thought, yeah, this is the thrill, of course, that these whale killers also have. It's the same energy. And so there was this guilt kind of come and this kind of like, I have to hold that back. And then I thought, no, I had to really work on transforming that into the thrill of the encounter and the possibility to come into closer presence with reverence and with gratitude and with awe and wonder, let's say. The first was really connecting to that killer energy. Yeah, so that was I hadn't expected it. And the first time I saw the whale go down and saw the tail up, I started to cry. It was so emotional in a positive. There was something that was so touching and emotional about that. And I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. But it was very touching to see that. And it's also a beautiful sight. It's this, but yeah, but it was something, it was much deeper than that. So yeah.
To the people who kind of, what should I say, spot the whales or know where they are, do they work from intuition? Because I know that when we had our retreat last year, our guide, our ranger, he was 20 years old, and he'd say, what do you want to see today? And like we'd say like giraffe, and we had this joke with one lady, oh, Renee wants to manifest giraffe. And every time it was like we saw everything that we wanted to see, but I could pick up the sense of intuition, even like going away from, say, the elephants. We were watching the elephants, and he went, okay, now it's enough. We need to go now. So did you find that sense?
Yes, there is a sense because they work with binoculars and just looking. And well, I could go look through the binoculars and could look, but I really wouldn't see anything. That's training, of course. That's also, I know that also from safaris, indeed. But I am assuming, especially as it's in the family lineage, families do that work. I think there's also something around that. But I'm not quite sure. But I do feel there was such a heart opening. There was such a a presence around it. Yeah, I think so. And I was amazed, kind of like, well, this could, with the technology that we have, this must be so much more easily done. I mean, how come we're dependent? We're all on these little boats sitting there waiting till the world spotters tell us where to go. But that's how they do it. And I just do hope that they keep it like that, because there are, of course, also satellite images and all kinds of other things that you can use to spot where the whales are.
Well, I'm sure that to make that connection is intuition guided. Where I was in India with an old family who would find, hoe zeg je dat, edelstenen,
Gems.
gems. And this old woman on the rock, she was like of sniffing. How can you smell dirt? And she would say, "Dun," and then the sun would walk out, and there came out a big amethyst, like this big.
Oh, wow.
And they were afraid. I mean, one of the sons had the same skill, but that it will go away when it's not trained. And what is that kind of? I thought, well, they sort of you make this visualization somewhere, like the giraffe and the whale, and there comes a connection. Mystery of life.
And there's, of course, the frequency. I mean, that's a bit far, I think, from the whale spotter's perspective. But with the gems, they have a frequency. So I imagine that if you're sensitive to that, you can also feel that. Yeah.
The whales do have frequency too.
Yeah, I assumed it's the same with animals.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I have it with butterflies. They always come around and land on me because I had it from child on.
Christiana also had that, always. Yeah. Like my older daughter, she always, when we came to put up our tent, she walked around and she found a klavertje. Always, still happens. And then I would go and look for one. We would all go and look for one. Nobody. She always finds them.
So there are things we do not want that our families continue with, and there are things we want our families to continue with.
Yeah.
And it's still a puzzle to us with our retarded, or maybe not even retarded, but our partly used brains, our information. It's really fascinating to explore exactly that. How to let go of the things we do not want to pass on to our children. And yesterday we gained some beautiful answers to that. And in the same direction, it's what you just shared. And also not putting ourselves in between, maybe, that we want to do that. We want to do that. Just rambling out loud. I'm so sorry.
No.
You see, because if we knew how to let go of things, like passing on the same pattern, especially in circumstances of big abuse or Holocaust or disease. So it's also about now children who are becoming mothers, young women, and ask themselves, how do not pass on what consciously what I had to and live by abuse, for instance. So these things, what are we answering then? And this is also about the guilt, what you said, Hasina. It's almost too easy to say, come into the light or raise your frequency, but it's the work. It's the only work. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing about the beautiful wolfish, we say in walvis, Wales, and walvis. It means coming to the shore. Yeah.
I hadn't realized. Fish that come to the shore. Yeah. Yeah. I think it somehow also confirmed for me, or deepens the permission to be co-creative, life affirmingly co-creative from the heart. Because these animals, these expressions, there was this little kind of like, it wasn't a jellyfish, but it was something like that. It was drifting, and I thought it was a plastic bottle, but it wasn't. I don't know if I put that picture on I'll post it. And it is such a special animal. It drifts on this, it lets itself float. And when there's too much wind, there's not so much wind, it pumps up the top part that is like a plastic bottle, because then it can float better. If the wind comes, it lets out some of the air so that it becomes a sail, so that it can be sailing. That these very large tentacles into the sea, which captures the fish and then brings it up, and the short tentacles then do something with the fish so that it can be fed and taken through the whole system. If it breaks off one of these tentacles, well, it just grows a new same body. I mean, somebody's been really playing with these designs. So these expressions are so amazing. It's so amazing. I mean, this is so amazing. So I think, the creativity that we have, if we can really put that in service of life, it doesn't have to be I don't think it has to be really having a constructive purpose or whatever. It can be just an expression of love and light and beauty. But then it does have to have some kind of function, and in its own function, it feeds others. So there is this kind of like, in that sense, principles about what I am creating, what I'm doing. How come that, whilst it's serving me and my joy and my manifestation in the relationship with life, how can it also serve in other ways, other forms, so that we are all in this together, like, what the bees do, and like what the whales do too. The whale pump, they call it, that going up and down, taking the food, digesting that, and bringing it out in the upper layers, in that way bringing food that's deep down that the others cannot reach up to the surface, so that they can take it on. Yeah, so this kind of like, yeah, okay, let's continue.
That's
And
amazing.
effortless in that. So that little animal, or they're not thinking about, I have to serve as food for the turtle or whatever, because the turtle eats them. That's part of it. There's another type of expression. So we don't have to, but we do need to build it in. If we are co-creating, as that's part of, I think, our human capacity, then we do need to bring that in, but we don't need to, it doesn't have to be heavy and complicated and complex. Well, anyway.
Yes, it's what you just showed now as you were talking about it. It's this arousal, this inner bubbling up excitement of letting that out, and connected with this genius or something like that. I do not know, but it's also that expansion of this stretch of us, what really wants to, because I always think, what do I love most? So it's this creation together. It's this letting it flow or letting it come out, and also feeling that this imagination of ours is so important. The beauty of it doesn't matter where it comes from, really, but Hasina, what came through you yesterday, I was also flabbergasted. Of course I can rationalize it, but it's like, oh my goodness, these words coming and this wisdom and and so it's so beautiful. And that's this is also this arousal which makes us, and maybe that's it, to make sure that we can feel that, or that we bring ourselves into situations. It's that also the courage we need for that, to really bring that also, like you do, Kara.
It struck me too that it has to do something with flexibility, because you go along with whatever happens, wind, water, and we. When I did this meditation on the 17 chakras, what I came aware most is the mental, how you say that, ideas, or the mental being is the most not flexible. When you are sort of more intelligent, spiritual person. And this being in the now, in the moment, and just be there, and whatever needed, and whatever, that's all. That's all. And that shows these animals as well for us.
But isn't it
I
amazing?
even have this sometimes when we sit here, that I sort of, you see me sometimes moving, because we're also sitting for the screen, and I sometimes, because what we were talking, that's why I danced yesterday. There has to be expression sometimes for me, somehow. As Laszlo also said, dancing live, please.
I find it amazing that, you know, society has educated us out of co-creation. And that's not to say we're disempowered, but it's interesting to observe what's being taught, that we'd been taught about competition, you know, and survival of the fittest. But when I've been so close to nature, just seeing there's no such thing. There's co-creation. You get a little egret bird sitting on the buffalo, and next to the buffalo, yet the buffalo's not stampeding it. And there's like a mutual interaction that's beneficial. There's all this co-creation. And even when, I mean, I remember seeing a cheetah, not a cheetah, was it a leopard, feeding its young. And there had just been a kill, so you could see the buck. But there was no such thing, there's no such thing as, oh, I'm doing this for purposes of, or for malicious intent. It's each creature is on their own journey, and they're just they're giving and receiving what they need, and that's all they need. It's about nothing else, and it's just about the journey. And in a way, the whole cycle of life, you know, just co-creation. And here we come into our human way of being, and we're being taught about competitions, and it seems like you just watch, sometimes there are these reality series on TV competitions, and you think, wow, like how like it's just not evolutionary. Life doesn't work that way. If you were to put these people in a situation where they had to share something and it was really life or death, they'd probably be much nicer and care and share. And here we go, put them in this situation, and they're all wanting to, like, metaphorically kill each other to get to win the money or something. And it just seems so ridiculous. How did we ever get there?
just wanting to add that I always find it fascinating that people say, "You're looking beautiful," and that someone else says, "Oh, thank you." Because, thank you? You did not make yourself. Who are you thanking? And that's always what fascinates me, that we think we invented ourselves. My goodness, we had a big task for doing that. It's so beautiful that it's through us. And it's, yeah, this outside looking that we did not create ourselves, that was just coming, and we have to keep up with that, however it is. We do not even see it ourselves. That's the most strange thing of that. I cannot believe that we drifted so much from this inner world. But thank you. It's wonderful that we can talk about it. It's out in the air. We must do that more.
I would love to
Dan, you're
hear.
muted.
Cara?
Love to hear from Rosa. I haven't heard Rosa.
I think for me, the word that kept coming to mind was playfulness in co-creating and in simply being. And Marie, earlier when we were speaking about co-creation and contributing, sometimes it can feel heavy, the sense of what do we do and how do we do that, and how do we, especially in the current climate in the world. And I think that that's the word that kept coming to me, is the notion of playfulness. We tend to drift away from a sense of our being and who we are, and this heaviness sets in, and it's in a way taking life almost too seriously. It does feel serious, but it's counterproductive in a way to see it that seriously, because we lose touch with ourselves and with our own inner alignment. And all that you were describing in terms of nature, in terms of the animals, is this sense of being without, in a way, without worrying so much or projecting ourselves so much in the future, to the point where we lose that connection in the moment, and that beauty that can be created within the moment. And so that's really kind of what has been coming up to me, the sense of reminding myself and maybe reminding ourselves of playfulness in whatever we do, in that kind of creativity and creative moment. And yes, the dancing, you're right, Emily. Absolutely.
Oh, it makes me so happy, all these words.
I must fly away and pick up my son at a friend's house. So thank you. Much love.
Much love.
Play with your son in the light, Cara.
I feel lots of peace and joy being with you.
Yeah.
Everyone want to check out with a word?
Gratitude.
Playfulness.
TLC. One word. One word. TLC.
Abundance.
Love.
Ila, I love you all. Ila.
Ila. Woo! Yeah. Woo-hoo-hoo. So I really need to go now to my meditation teacher class, or otherwise I'm missing out. It was nice to see you. Lovely to hear everything what you just shared. It fills my heart. I need to take care of my financial situation here, and I'm off until next week, hopefully. Bye for now.
everyone.